This video, much like all my videos, is sponsored by Alpha Draft, where you can play fantasy esports such as CSGO and League of Legends, both games actually for IEM Katowice. Now, in the other quarterfinal, the first one was the Tempo Storm versus Na'Vi one, we have FNATIC versus Virtus.pro. Now, this is a classic matchup in CSGO over the last sort of 15, 16 months or so, ever since this FNATIC core came around. FNATIC always used to get the better of Virtus.pro early on, particularly in the majors, Katowice, then over at Cologne, where FNATIC won both the majors and beat Virtus.pro en route to doing so. But Virtus.pro had their times. They struck back. They were able to win at ESEA Season 18 in April. And they were able to get the win also at ESL Dubai. Both events Virtus.pro went on to win. So there has been some back and forth. More recently, with the new lineup of FNATIC, Virtus.pro lost at the first tournament for that lineup of FNATIC in a 2-1 semi-final at Face It Stage 3. And FNATIC is the number one team in the world. They've won all the events they've played with this lineup, and they've thus far not lost to Virtus.pro. Virtus.pro, on the other hand, has only played a couple of LANs, but made top 4 at the first one to Face It Stage 3, did poorly at DreamHack Leipzig, didn't get out of the groups, and online has been suffering quite heavily and are considered to be in one of the worst slumps of their career. So coming into the matchup in terms of where the teams are placed in the overall history, heavily favouring FNATIC. But when you look into some of the maps and the pick ban options, you'll see that there's actually some quite compelling reasons to suggest Virtus.pro can make this pretty competitive and perhaps more impressively close than many imagine. Maybe with some people even being able to find a way to rationalise a Virtus.pro victory in this series. So we look at FNATIC, and they have 4 maps they are very strong on. Dust 2, Inferno, Cache, and Cobble. Dust 2, they are phenomenal at this map. 9 out of 10 victories on LAN. Their only loss was to Nip at Fragbite Masters, who were a very good Dust 2 team with the old lineup. As a result, this is reflected in the bans against FNATIC. It is the most banned map against them, where over the last couple of events, they've had it banned against them on 9 out of 13 occasions. So other teams recognising Dust 2 is monstrous for FNATIC. Cache, they've won 7 out of 8 offline games. They lost to NIP, and they've won their last 5 straight on Cache. So very, very strong there. Interestingly, not as banned a map against them as something like Dust 2 or even Inferno Cobble. Then you go third map, Inferno. They have 14 out of 17 LAN games on this. Phenomenal record, 82% win rate there. They lost to Envious at Face It, who were very strong on Inferno. They lost to X-Titan at Stylistic, which was a big shock actually, and they lost to Luminosity at this tournament, IEM. Those are the only times they've lost on those maps. Then you've got Cobble, which they haven't played that much, only 5 out of 7 times, but it's been banned against them. It's one of the more banned against them. Their losses are NIP, which is a big shock at Fragbite Masters, Envy, who were fantastic on this map at ESL Season 2, and they've won their last 4 straight on Cobble. Then you have, in terms of questionable maps, Mirage and Overpass. Mirage was one where they were pretty good on it early on with this lineup, but they lost their last 4 straight on it, so it's now become quite a problem map for them, and it's now their most banned map as a result. Then you look at Overpass, they've only played it twice with this lineup, and they lost 1 time to SK, and as a result, it's in the middle of the pack of the maps that they ban, and it's reasonably less banned against them. A lot of people like Overpass at the moment. Train is terrible for FNATIC at the moment. They've won 2 games out of 6. They've lost to Luminosity at Face It. They lost to Na'Vi. They've lost to Envious twice on Train. It's a 33% win rate for them offline, and it's their second most banned map, so they don't want any part of Train. Now you come into the scenario of Virtus.pro. Virtus.pro, the problem is their online slump has been different to their offline performance. And so the maps online and offline change around. So if you combine both online and offline, their best maps are Train, Cobble, Inferno. Then they're kind of questionable on Overpass, Mirage, and then they're bad on Dust 2 and Cache. But if you go offline, Mirage leaps up 4 spots to become their best map. If you go on Inferno, that goes up a spot and becomes their second best map. Train goes down a couple and becomes their third best map. Overpass stays the same as the 4th. Cobble goes down 2 and becomes their 5th best map. And the last 2, Cache and Dust 2, stay the same. So basically, just some change around at the top mainly, and the 4th, 6th, and 7th maps stay the same. Now, what this means overall is that when we look at combining the differences between the two, the strong maps overall, we have to reasonably say at the moment, are Mirage, and Cobblestone, combining all the matches for the guys from Virtus.pro. These have been pretty strong overall. Inferno has been good on LAN, but more questionable because of the online games. So Inferno, Train, Overpass, Mirage are in kind of the questionable range because the team's slumping so much. And then bad, they are flat out bad at Cash and Dust 2. Dust 2's obviously they do not play. They dared to play it against Mouse at DreamHack Leipzig. That it was their previous permaban, and they got punished for doing so and should not have done that. Cash, always been a trouble map over the last 6 months or so. They can still get big wins on it. They have beaten some good teams on it. They even beat IEM on it. They even beat Envious on it at this IEM. And they've won their last 2. So maybe some signs going forwards there. The most banned map for Inferno recently, banned map for Virtus.pro recently, has been Inferno actually. Then came Dust 2, which was their permaban before. But Inferno, the most banned at the moment. Against them, everyone bans mostly Train. On 6 out of 7 occasions over the last 2 lands, Train being banned against them. No one wants to play their Train. Their Train is still very scary. Even though, as I said, it's actually become more of a questionable map when you add in the online play. Actually, I got that the wrong way around. Let me think. I know what I've done wrong here. Let me just correct that. Okay, let me correct what I said there. I had a name the wrong way around there. It should have been their strong maps are Train and Mirage. Inferno and Cobble are questionable. So strong map, the only 2 really strong maps at the moment, Train and Mirage. No one wants Mirage, that's why it's out there. Top win rate overall, and still 3rd best win rate when you take into account the rest of it. Cobble's more in the questionable zone. Now, you go and look at what they're banning, getting banned against them. It's Train. Obviously, no one likes Train in general. Mirage is still a classic VP map, gets banned against them, and Cobble still up there as one that people think of as a stronger map. Now, what this means is that when we come down to the pick ban phase, first of all, historically, there's a lot of interesting matchups there. Secondly, both teams have a number of options where there's not overlap, and so they can choose, do they ban their opponent's strong map, or do they ban a map that is a weakness for them, because some of those maps are different. So as a result, let's imagine that FNATIC pick to go second because they're the higher seed. So Virtus.pro, first of all, this is an easy one. Virtus.pro should, and I expect will, ban Dust 2. It's still a high ban for them. It's a map that's phenomenal for FNATIC. They do not want any part of Dust 2. FNATIC, here's where I expect them to ban Mirage. It's a map that hasn't been good for them recently. It's one of their maps that they've lost the last 4 straight on offline. It's a map that they're banning the most, 11 out of 13 occasions over the last 13 chances. So I expect them to ban Mirage, but the option is they could ban Train as well, because we know Train is still strong for Virtus.pro. We know it's actually the worst map for FNATIC, so they could go with that option. But I expect them to do Mirage. I think Mirage is the safer one here. As a result, I think that Virtus.pro will pick Train. And if they pick Train, I think actually Virtus.pro can win this. I think FNATIC's weak enough, especially on T side, especially on CT side rather, where they've had their struggles, that Virtus.pro's terror side is fantastic and they can win that half and they can actually win the first map because Train will be available. Then I think FNATIC will respond by picking Cash. It's the second weakest map for Virtus.pro in all components because it permaban Dust 2 and they'll have banned Dust 2 here. It's actually a very strong map for FNATIC. It's their second strongest map on LAN and they've won their last 5 straight offline. So that's why I expect them to pick it. It matches up here. But if they want to go another option, maybe they'll pick Inferno out of confidence. Even though Inferno's a good map for VP as well, or at least it's in the questionable range now, but historically was good, maybe FNATIC will just be so confident they'll pick Inferno. Personally, I think they should pick Cash, and I think if they do so, it will be a strong win for FNATIC. Then we come to the ban phase again. I think, assuming Inferno wasn't picked by FNATIC, that Virtus.pro here will ban Inferno. I think they will ban Inferno because overall it's still questionable for them in some senses, and FNATIC are still very good, and they've got Dust 2 out all the way. FNATIC's picked Cash, therefore the third best map for FNATIC, overwhelmingly 14 out of 17 games played, is Inferno, so I think VP should ban this here. But the other option is if they're scared of Cobble. If they're scared of Cobble, they might ban Cobble, hoping Inferno comes as the last map, the decider, thinking we have a better chance on Inferno than we do on Cobble. I would ban Inferno if I'm here, because I've just seen them lose too many times to FNATIC on it, and I think right now FNATIC's still very dangerous on that map. Then I think FNATIC with their last ban will ban Overpass. It's a map that's been one of the worst maps for them, but they've only played it twice offline. It's not a map they particularly want any part of. It's a map that's right in the middle of their banning, and so I expect them to ban that. leaving the decider being Cobblestone. And I think on a Cobblestone game, it's actually an interesting matchup between the two. FNATIC's very good at it, but Virtus.pro's never terrible at it. They can always compete, but I think FNATIC would win the Cobblestone. So actually, I think there's a decent chance this is a 2-1. I think VP can get Train if it comes to that. And I think FNATIC will win the series 2-1 by winning Cash the second map and Cobblestone the third map. Now, what makes this great as well is it's a stylistic matchup because both teams have pretty good T-sides at the moment. That's been some of the strength. But Virtus.pro, even in their slump, have had good T-sides. Not phenomenal T-sides like we used to, where they could get the 9 or 10 rounds sometimes, but still good enough T-sides. And if they play maps like Train, Cash, and Cobblestone, these are maps where you can get T rounds. And a team that's very good like Virtus.pro, who can win the T half of Train, certainly can get T rounds. So they're going to be in with a chance here. Now, what's interesting, though, is VP has a good T-side on Cash. FNATIC has a fantastic CT side on the map. So that map, the second map, would be fantastic to watch. FNATIC's CT not so strong on Train overall. FNATIC very good on Cobblestone though. So I think that will be a great third map if we get there. And I like the matchup on Cash to even get there in the first place. So actually, I think stylistically, when you take into the recent form and history, that actually VP has a good shot here and it will be competitive as it usually was, even though I think FNATIC is the better team and will come out on top.